Hi guys, Martin Curry from Belief Media. In this video, we're going to have a look at a form. It's the non-conforming business demo form. It's just slapped here on a test page on one of our test websites. So the form itself is one that will not necessarily be used by mortgage brokers, certainly those that deal in retail products, and it's going to be rarely applied, in fact, by many others. It was designed specifically for one client. So those people that will end up using this style of form specifically will normally have a relationship with this particular group. And they're available to you, so that service is provided to you, and it's a two-way arrangement. So if you provide them stuff, they'll flick stuff back to you as well. Now, the reason I'm introducing this form rather than any other is only because it was the only video I had on my phone. I will introduce other forms and I'm going to talk through them. The reason I'm doing so is because I've been highly critical of the form that is applied on the landing page associated with the number of products I've reviewed over the last number of days. I've reviewed a number of Facebook ads and I critique them and sort of pull them apart. And of course, they all link to a landing page. And on that landing page, the form asset is usually subpar. It usually doesn't perform the function that it is meant to perform. I'm going to show you sort of what a form is meant to do and how it's meant to work. It can have a massive bearing and a massive impact on the quality of conversion, the number of conversions you get through your website. Is the form itself asks too much, or in some cases doesn't ask enough? It can severely compromise the effectiveness of that type of subscription process. Now, this form starts with the Russian time zone at the top. Just ignore that. That was just used during testing. You can change that. It will default to the time zone of the user based on the browser. So we'll always default to the time zone of the user that accesses the page. Now, where are we? How can we contact you? Your mobile number will be verified before the form is submitted. That's important to advise users of that requirement before they continue with the form. We don't want to surprise them with phone verification at the end. There are a number of different types of funnels, right? The two types of funnels where you kind of force contact or force verification of a mobile, that's the formatting of the mobile number itself, and then SMS verification, so a code has to be entered back into the form. That's normally applied on a contact funnel and an appointment funnel. What's the difference between the two? For an appointment funnel, we force the calendar feature to be open. Let's just run through it and we'll talk through it as we go. So there's the time zone functionality. Again, that's very rarely used. Type in name, email. That will force validation on the email address, so it'll pop up as red if it's invalid. Now, this is important, the number. I'm one number short here in the form. Now, an Australian number is very clear. It's 10 digits, starts with 04. Right? You can validate that very, very easily. You'll always use a HTML5 number form or a text field, but apply validation on that field in some way, which is what we do. And based on the correct formatting being entered into that field, we're actually going to roll over the form. Now, let me show you how that works, because as soon as this mobile number is entered correctly, it will, here we go, just punch open to the next field, which is, do you have an ABN? Now, in this case, they required the ABN. That has an impact on the conditional redirect, which we'll talk about in a moment, and it has an impact on who this lead gets sent to. In fact, all of the questions here are asked, bloody Timu, that thing that popped up on my screen, it will have an impact on, again, the Timu little pop-up distracted me, but it will have an impact on who the deal is sent through to. If they don't have an ABN, the do you own a property makes it, a property-based transaction. Otherwise, it's kind of turnover-based. These things work in different ways, but these are the questions that were required. If they do have an ABN, and most businesses will, that's the purpose of the form, is it will present an alternate option. Let's have a look. Okay, so that's that. Come on. And this is what most businesses will do. They'll say, yes, I have an ABN. Now, this is important because most people don't know their ABN off by heart. We want businesses to be able to either enter their name or an ABN, or a partial business name or a partial ABN. So we've got our own API that returns ABN details. It's updated weekly. and that'll just return a drop down of various names. So there we go. We'll select that. It populates the ABN, and there we go. So the next field is really important. Okay, want us to call it at a specific time. This is a contact funnel. It's not an appointment funnel. Those that require business in 24 hours generally require a fast turnaround. They generally don't want to make an appointment, but if an appointment is required, that facility has to exist in the form to facilitate that. So want us to call at a specific time. Now, when we toggle this on, there'll be two fields that drop down. Let's have a look at them. There you go. Select consultation date and time. Now, you select the consultation date. This is our standard calendar integration, and the times will populate based on the date that's selected. First of all, it's fully integrated with Outlook. So once the form is actually submitted, a number of things will take shape. First of all, it will send to Outlook. It will send the recipient a calendar invite. It will optionally attach a Teams meeting. You can optionally allow the client to change the meeting time and so on. There are a lot of different features that apply, and they're all accomplished in Yabba. But what I don't like is when you send people to a second page, because the second page calendar has a massive, massive drop-off rate, right? You might have a number of people jump through a form, it gets to the calendar, and they'll drop off completely, right? And that's the second page. It's wasted. It's a wasted experience on the calendar, because that's meant to be an escalation page. It's God's gift to marketers. It's God's gift to businesses. You need to be able to do something with it. And what you don't want to do is waste that page on a calendar all over again, where 99% of the time an individual has to enter their name, email, phone number all over again, select the date, select the time, and then they have to jump through these various hoops, jump through verification all over again. It's just a load of nonsense. You integrate it with your primary front end form. Now, this feature alone increases conversions by at least, somewhere between 200 and 400%, because it varies depending on the form that's used or the environment in which it's used and the type of transaction. So we'll flick that on and off, I guess. There we go. Come on, let's get to it. And there are a number of options here. You can select earliest convenience or, whatever else. But in most cases, you're going to select a date and time. Again, these availability times on the right-hand side are populated based on the availability in your calendar. You can have any number of forms, any number of calendars, any number of Teams, invites, any number of anything. So these are applied on a form-by-form basis. And there's an FAQ on our website that will detail how this is used, but this form, again, is used specifically by one client. So this FAQ effectively relates to them, but other brokers that partner with this particular group will be able to use the experience. And if I didn't mention before, we've made a large number of forms lately, most of them visual, so lots of icon-based forms, the little icon in the middle in a square, and they're used as an option to drop downs and things, and they're really good. We've seen them in the industry. People seem to like them, so we just kind of built these things, not necessarily adhering to best practice, but adhering to maybe aesthetic practice, which pleases the broker more than it does the consumer. So these forms exist. There's a whole bunch we're rolling out, and again, these are all integrated with our new funnels product, which is pushed to market as a Facebook-based lead gen product, and it's designed to return better results than all those junkyard products that are available to market. And we'll talk about that another time. So we'll select the date and time, and this takes us on to the next step. It's probably, here we go, submit form. Now, something interesting is going to happen here. Processing. There we go. Phone verification. I have hit pause. Now, phone verification, again, is not forced unless you want it to be. So someone can enter a dummy phone number, but you don't want to jump through a large number of hoops in order to make this happen. It has to be seamless, it has to be inline and intuitive. A 4-digit code is sent directly to their mobile. That is real time. It takes about a quarter of a second. In fact, when I was recording this demo, I do remember the SMS had sent before the field had actually shown. So 4-digit verification code. And this is important as well. Again, it's just a UI consideration. I've hit pause. After we enter those 4 digits, we don't want to require them to hit submit. So as soon as the correct code is entered, here we go, it will submit to the next page. Now, Okay, let's stop there. I entered the four correct digits. And okay, first of all, this text form was successfully submitted. Obviously, that's nonsense text. You would never present that to a consumer. There's an option in Yabba to change that. So we can customize that to our liking, and it really is predicated or determined by where we're going to send them and what we're going to do next. We want to let them know, hey, we're sending you to another page. It's going to present the opportunity to do X, Y, Z, or it's going to give you some information, or we've got a video for you and whatever else. So sure, you're going to say success, but then you're going to have a long message that's specific. The form was successfully submitted. Text is applied if nothing else is applied. So it's a junkyard message and a throwaway message that you would never use on an active form. I do give forms grief when they say form was submitted or something similar. I say, this is a wasted opportunity. This is a demo, but you would never use that. Of course, underneath it is a big progress bar. That lets the user know, hey, we're going to be sent to a new page. You know, this is how long it's going to take. You need a visual and visceral indication of what's happening. So let's just let that go and let it go. And I'm going to pause this just before we get to the new page. There we go. And it splits up. The time it takes for that to happen is determined by you. So it's one of the settings that you apply in what we call the redirect bar. In this case, I think it was 8 seconds. It might, if it was just a very short message like you've got there, it might be 3 seconds or 2 seconds. But it's usually enough time to consume the message that was left for the individual. Now, something interesting is going to happen on this redirect page. And first of all, we just redirected to the bank or the lender archive page, which is just a page that you would never redirect to on page 2 normally. But one thing is going to happen as soon as the page loads, and that is a modal will pop up. Now, this was unintentional when I recorded this. It's just one of the things we used on this particular test site and development site. So it'll redirect to the second page. Remembering this is God's gift. We need to do something on this page. It's an amazing page. We need to build something, gamify it. We need to introduce something to the clients. And there it goes. There's a modal that pops up. Better let it load properly. So that's just the demo modal for the Commonwealth Bank. Now, we don't introduce entry modals. Entry modals are those modals that are introduced to a user on the basis of simply opening a page, right? And these modals, our modal system is really comprehensive. So you can deliver modals on the basis of, geography, borrowing type. They are conditional. All sorts of things apply on landing pages. You might introduce a modal after, say, 2 minutes. So if the user has done nothing after 2 minutes, if you've got a 1 minute 30 video or something similar, it's designed sort of to escalate if they don't do something on that page. But the one modal that matters, now, as I close this, watch what I do with my mouse off to the right-hand side. Now, I turn that off, and I should click that off. There we go. And I move my mouse to the right. As soon as it's off screen, another modal popped up. Why did that modal pop up? That's called exit intent, which means I'm leaving the page. And we do utilize those on both the entry landing page, that's the previous landing page with the form, and on the second landing page. So if a user tries to escape our experience, we offer them the modal with alternate information or provide them with alternate pathways, right? We want to convert them. We want them to see something else. We want them to engage. So if what we're showing them isn't entirely relevant, remembering that the attention of your user is the most valuable commodity in a funnel. How do you maintain, how do you achieve that? And it's through relevance. You just deliver an entirely relevant funnel experience, but you never, ever, ever, ever throw an end of life at them, so a brick wall. You never stop the funnel. You always send them somewhere. Even if it was after, say, the second page, you might say, hey, review our lender data, and they might go through here and start reviewing data. Clicking on any of these icons returns you to a page full of all the products offered by that lender and so on, and then clicking on each product takes you to the product description page with other information. So that's that. So the redirect, again, in this case, is applied on the basis of, do you have an ABN, yes or no? So, and we'll see where those values are defined in just a moment. We did take a very short screenshot of Yabba. So In the case of most forms, again, conditional redirects are the single most important thing you'll ever do. And that is, did the user make a booking? Did they provide a phone number? Are they a subscriber? In some cases, two conditional redirects will apply, and that is, did they make a booking? Did they provide a phone number? All right, and that applies in those cases where the phone number is forced. Again, I'm going to say it again. Conditional redirects will improve your conversions by 300% because remember, this is the second page. Everything we needed from a client was actioned on the first page. We didn't do any of that ridiculously dumb stuff. This applies in any form we provide. We didn't ask for any of that dumb stuff that those other people do, and it frustrates me because it's industry worst practice. You'll never see a high-performing funnel do what these other people do, and that is produce nonsense forms that don't do anything, don't validate any fields, don't provide validation, don't include the calendar. And again, I believe personally, and not personally, it's an objective opinion, it's based on our experience in the industry, but it's been so long since we've produced a bad experience, we kind of rely on, recently inheriting the broker growth stuff and everything, where we've been able to measure it against, a horrible experience. So I think the single most important function you can put on that first page is calendar. Right, those calendar fields that's integrated with Outlook, availability times, sourced from your calendar, and so on, because it's all you need. You don't need to ask any of those details again. All you need is date and time. That's all, right? Based on your defined calendar profile in Yabba. It's just, don't overcomplicate things. And when you get sent to a calendar, half the time, by the way, which doesn't work, certainly in the experiences we've reviewed lately, where that link just doesn't work. In a couple of cases, that's linked to illicit adult websites. Like the issues introduced with that single link are extraordinary. Anyway, so that's that. That's the second page. Normally we do something. That's kind of not the point. Okay, what I've done here is I've just gone back to the form, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to refresh the page. Okay, let me do that. I'll just refresh the page there, and that's how it loads. Now, we've previously engaged with this form. So any form on your website, whether it be on a landing page or any internal page or anywhere, we know that specific information. We know name, email, phone number. So we're not going to ask that again. That's just a waste of time. In fact, there's an FAQ on our website, beliefmedia.com.au/FAQ, where we detail how to build a hidden form. That is, it's only a submit button. So if you've got something in a blog post that might say, send this guide to fu@bar.com, it doesn't actually show the form. It's got a little toggle bar that says review fields or something like that. It's customizable text. But you don't necessarily need to show everything all over again. So in this case, if we selected an ABM, that's where it would trigger the fold, what we call a fold, which is just where it rounds over back into the additional options. And by the way, the ABN API is just one of many we have. You'd be familiar with the property API for entering property addresses. It's all streets in Australia, every single registered address. These things are necessary for property reports and so on. Magnificent for statistical purposes. Remember, any street that's resolved, so if there's a drop down and you select a specific address, that's resolved to an ID, so we can build really good statistical data, and that can then further fuel the funnel fire, that is, and certainly provide you with the data necessary to improve upon your own advertising or marketing based experience. So let's push on with this. I think on the next screen we look at but I don't know what I'm doing here. I'm just going through the whole thing again, aren't I? All right, so, okay, here's Yabba. All right, there's a lot of options here. Now, this is the non-conforming business form options are not nearly as comprehensive as the formally standard subscription options. So you've got options to do literally anything. Now, the big ticket items, you will send a first email and a second email. They're always required. You may send an SMS initially to the user. You will always subscribe them to an email list. You may subscribe them to an SMS list and an SMS autoresponder program. You will always add them to Outlook as a contact. They will always be assigned a status. There are a number of categories that will apply for that user, and they'll be defined by you in this setting. So when someone subscribes, they'll be assigned those standard categories you built into this template. I have to pull in here. So the contact folder, the SMS autoresponder, there's a whole bunch of different things. So I'm kind of having to bounce around this page. Here's the important one. This is where you define the redirect for an ABN and a no ABN. Now, the reality is that you can redirect to one page. So if only one value exists there, then you're going to send to a single page. But even if they're the same, we just still recommend you stick in two values. They should be different because both individuals are going to be treated differently, certainly with the post, with the second page and the follow-up in the email and perhaps the SMS. And that includes, by the way, a voice drop, an audio voice drop attached to an SMS. So it becomes a multimedia text, an MMS. There are a whole bunch of other functions here that apply with regard to automation. And there is generally 35 points of automation. You can apply optional webhooks. You can integrate with all sorts of things. You can just get an idea there. There is a lot of advanced stuff you can do, both in form design and functionality and automation. So that's kind of that. So we're getting to the end of the line here with this particular video. But that's kind of that. Guys, your form is so important, right? It is so ridiculously important. While I'm talking, I'll just let that run in the background. In fact, I'm going to pause it because that clicking is annoying the hell out of me. So, guys, your form is a conduit, right? You put all this money into paid promotion, you're throwing out on Facebook and everything else, the ad and copy and creative and placement and targeting and all those things that impact the success of your campaign are obviously super important, right? However, you're sending people to a landing page more often than not. That landing page must include certain attributes. I say must, and it's a little self-serving because I know that we're the only ones that do it. We've developed our own techniques and everything else around how forms work and integrate with landing pages and so on. So I know that sounds self-serving. I know it sounds self-serving when I say you need your calendar on the first entry page, so the primary form. You need the phone verification on the entry form. I know all those things. It sounds like I'm assigning value to what we do, and I kind of am because I know that other people aren't doing it because they're limiting the effectiveness of their campaigns based on their capacity to introduce technology. Now, we talk about tail wagging the dog all the time, and that is your fluency with technology shouldn't dictate the effectiveness of a campaign, particularly when it's not just an incremental improvement in ROI, it's in the magnitude of 1 or 2, 3, 400% sometimes. So if you design a specific funnel flow, if you design or imagine how your subscription might work, you have to implement the technology yourself in order to facilitate that. We never say, oh, that can't be done, or you can't do that. What we have to do is this instead. So what we've done is we've designed a funnel flow that we know objectively improves on conversions by 300% out of the gate when compared against all that nonsense I've showed you in the last 3 or 4 days, right? And then we further engage on the basis of that second page. Instead of sending someone to a BS calendar, we send them somewhere where we've got a video or an asset or a resource where we can immerse them in something and gamify the experience, retain their attention and drive them deeper into the experience. And that's why our broker website is so comprehensive, because each email that we send someone or each progression in the funnel through the top of subscription process will send people to these resources, right? And it really does irritate me that the quality of marketing within the industry is so poor. At the moment, our guys are, and I mentioned yesterday in a video, not one of our brokers, not one at the moment is seeing conversions less than $70. I'm not talking leads. I'm talking people that are progressing through a phone call into an opportunity. So somebody that's in your CRM submitting paperwork, an opportunity, $70. That's kind of a little bit unheard of, even for us in the last month or so. And I put it down to Facebook's quality algorithm. I don't know, but because so many people are doing so many dumb things, I think Facebook leans in towards a better experience. That content which engages people in Facebook gets more attention. Now, obviously, there's a whole bunch of things I'd like to talk about, but it's not entirely relevant. The point is, guys, again, the form is a conduit between your promoted experience, say your money, your budget, and actually achieving the lead. If the form doesn't exist, then that little transactional experience doesn't happen there. That doesn't mean you don't put a whole bunch of stuff on your landing page in order for people to contact you in different ways, including phone number, calendar, contact, and home, right? They're all standard things that you'll always do. However, the form has to be excellent, right? Now, our forms are all proprietary. We build them all ourselves. That's all forms of all types, and they're not plugins. So you don't load a page and then wait 5 or 6 seconds for a plugin to load or some JavaScript thing to load. They are built by us on your website, and they just load instantaneously as the page loads. That's a big deal. So there are a lot of things to consider with this. This was the non-conforming business demo form. I will show you some more relevant forms later, and I'll certainly show you some of the forms that we have used very recently, which have the images. So you've seen them before. What would you like to do when refinance or purchase first home, purchase next home, that sort of thing. And you've got a whole bunch of boxes with a little image, and you click the box instead of selecting anything from a select menu, and it is more intuitive. Thus far, we haven't seen a real big difference at all with the number of conversions or the quality of conversions, but I think it does present a little bit nicer. The advantage of what we see here on the screen is mobile responsiveness. It just squeezes up into a little form, whereas with buttons, they fold over each other and they're stacked, and you might have to scroll down and things like that. So it becomes, I think if you weighed up the advantages of either form, it would kind of be offset by the disadvantage that we see in the other form. So they're much of a muchness. Either way, brokers will have an option, and we'll certainly continue to test the effectiveness of all the new forms we have introduced over coming days. We've introduced new forms for doctors and nurses and engineers and other groups specifically, which tend to elevate our authority in the market. Instead of asking dumb questions, we're going to ask 1 or 2 questions that will allow us to actually determine where they're positioned in that particular space. And it's all automated, generated text, so they don't have to work hard in order to provide the data. It doesn't look at it's an option. It doesn't even have a big impact on the form itself, but that's irrelevant. Guys, my name is Martin Curry, Belief Media. 1300 235 433 is our office line number. 0400 777 300 is my direct number, and our website, beliefmedia.com.au. Thank you.